is an amazing resource. They've got free tools on there to help you assess and figure out where your passion and your talents intersect so that you can target those jobs. That's a great place to start your search, careerjoy.com.
Okay, so if we have people starting at careerjoy.com, and I'm sure Alan Kearns will appreciate that, he was our guest last week.
That's right.
And they can go online to sort of do an assessment of where their strengths are and what types of jobs they should be looking for. What's the next step?
So then after that, I think you want to make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn profile are all targeted towards the job that you've decided is the right, and the industry that's the right one for you.
Okay.
Make sure your resume is on Monster and Workopolis, because people can search in there for that, as well as just researching the jobs that are available. You can be out there as well. And then on LinkedIn, and I brought a sample of my LinkedIn profile so you could see it, because it's jam-packed with everything to attract attention, which is, you know, kind of braggy or boastful, but this is like your online profile. This is Facebook for business. This is where you have the opportunity to market yourself online. And you can use LinkedIn another way too, by searching out those target companies, belonging to groups where those people network, finding out the names of people who have the jobs that you want, getting coffee meetings with them. Okay. And it's such a huge resource. I use it as a sales tool all the time, and it's really, really a very solid tool. I also have a slideshow, and if you have an opportunity to develop a slideshow of, for example, construction projects you've worked on, put it in there, put the pictures on there. If somebody's going to browse through that on a Sunday afternoon and go, oh my gosh, he built that, oh my gosh, she coordinated that, that's a huge project, and it's a great chance to showcase something.
Absolutely. So, you know, you've decided what kind of job you want to look for. You've targeted your LinkedIn page and your resume, saying, you know, here's all the strengths that I have that allow me to go towards this job that I'm looking for. And you finally get the interview.
Yes.
Then what?
Well, first you actually get the phone call, which is the chance for you to screen, and it's a chance for the employer to screen you out. So this is the point where you decide, do you want to go to every interview you possibly can for the practice, or do you want to only go to interviews if it's the right fit for you? So you have usually employers who are calling you for the phone screening. They want to know, do you want the job still? Suitable candidate? Do you really have the skills that were on your resume or on your profile?
Right.
And is it the right price range? And sometimes they're talking money that far up front. If it's a recruiter, for sure, they're going to mention the price range. You know, it's between 70 and 80. You know, no, you want 90, so it's really not. Well, they might still, you know, there's some flexibility. Get it out of the way early if you can, and if they bring it up, for sure.
So is that your advice if people are starting to talk about salary right then and there in the phone? Be upfront and direct?
It really depends on your objective. So if you want to go to every interview, then you know what, we should talk about that. It gives you a chance to display your skills, really dig into the heart of it. And if you've got way more of the requirements than what they're really looking for, you could bring a lot more to the table and be worth paying you more too. So I wouldn't cancel out any opportunities unless you're sure it's far beneath what you are interested in.
Okay.
Yeah. So save their time, save your time, make it easy.
Absolutely.
But don't bring up money first.
Nice.
Always. So the other part about the preparation is to have your story. So you want to craft the messages so that when in the interview, if there's a question that you can't answer, or if there's a question that maybe touches on something, you can answer the question briefly, but then say, but what my real strength is I really am able to identify ROI early in an opportunity and bring that home for the business. Let me give you an example of that.
Sure. And
go on like that. So that really can work well. If you have those messages crafted, you can drop them into an interview at appropriate times, and it's going to sound natural, and you won't leave them off the table.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is when they ask you a question about your skill sets, you're able to answer the direct question, but then throw in some additional information that wasn't actually requested. Show them the value that you bring.
Yeah, a prepared message of your real true strength, your high top strengths. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then the other thing that you want to do when you're interviewing, the most important thing is when you first arrive at the building, don't smoke. Do not smoke on premises. Do not smoke before your interview. And it sounds silly, but there's so many people that are sensitive towards that. And if they see you smoking and they are not smokers, it will create a negative impression. When you go in, if there's a reception area, the first people you meet, treat everybody friendly and positive. If you slight the receptionist, it's going to get back to the higher manager for sure. So make sure that you're very proper in all your early arrivals. If you're offered a beverage, you can take it if you feel comfortable. Probably safer not to, because you could risk choking or spilling or something like that. So I'd probably not, unless you're dying of thirst. Do not ever bring any food or beverage with you and eat it in the waiting room. For God's sakes, don't fall asleep. These are all stories from recruiter nightmares, but it has happened, and you don't want that to be the next story.
Absolutely. Going on the sort of the theme of recruiter nightmares, talk to me a little bit about smartphones.
Oh, yes, all alerts off. I actually leave my phone in the car when I'm going to an interview. You can look at your phone while you're waiting for the waiting room. You can check email messages, but do not be on the phone conversation when your interviewee comes in to meet you. Domination. Yes, no, we don't want to do that right off the bat. We'll wait until you've been in the job after the probationary period before you start dominating anybody. The other good thing to do is obviously dress appropriately. For women, that means not too short, not too low, not too gaudy. Well, I'm not here for a job. Not too much flashy jewelry, no perfume. For men, you know what, it's so tricky today because some environments are anti-suit and it's a really much more relaxed, but be safe rather than sorry. Go with the suit, the tie. Absolutely immaculate for both sexes. No dirt, no stains, nothing like that. Everything ironed and pressed. No cologne, it's not a date, it's an interview. No flashy jewelry for men either. I think those are very important, and it gives you that professional, polished image right when you walk in. Your smile, your handshake, and then I have a graph actually that demonstrates how important this is, and it's because 97% of your message is delivered non-verbally, and that means how you look and how you sound. So we could be saying blah, 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 and the viewers could be thinking, my gosh, those are very intelligent women, we should hire them immediately. And it had nothing to do with what we're saying.
So 97% is the visual cues.
Yes. And audio and visual, not what you say, but how you sound.
Okay.
So it's tricky in a job interview. You want to tell about all your great achievements, but you don't want to sound like you're boasting. You want to sound modest.
Right.
Your body language should be open and relaxed, not closed and forbidding.
Okay.
You want to have an open face, hair away from the face so that they can see. Gentlemen, if you have facial hair, you want to get that trimmed right up, unless this is a very artistic role with paint or something where a lot of facial, maybe Santa, I don't know, but something where facial hair would be acceptable. But in most cases, you want to trim that right down and make sure it's very, very polished and professional. Okay. Yeah.
Well, actually, Patricia, we have a caller here. Debbie's on the line.
Debbie?
I believe. Debbie, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Debbie. How can we help you?
I'm wondering, I haven't been on an interview in quite some time, almost 15 years, and I'm wondering what exactly has changed.
Ooh, what's changed?
Good question.
Yeah, great
Your
question.
thoughts, Patricia?
Well, a lot has changed. Interviewers, I think today, even company owners, they're researching the questions online. They're getting great behavioral interview questions. Tell me about a time when you saved your last company money, or whatever it is. So having those messages prepared is really great, but I think it goes back to, you still have to have that conversation with somebody. You still have to build that credibility and rapport. They have to know that you're somebody that they'll want to work with and that their customers will like, and that they can have on their team, and you're going to be a reasonable person in addition to all the skills that you obviously have.
Okay.
Does that
Is that helpful, Debbie?
No, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Take care. And we'll be right back on Working in the Capital with Patricia Cutler. Call in with your calls at 613-728-1001. Stay tuned. Capital. I'm here with Patricia Cutler, Director of Client Services at Hire Smart HR. Patricia, before the break, we were talking about what to do on day one and what to do when you get that call telling you that you have an interview. But what about in between? So you've been told that you have an interview at this date and this time, and before you show up, what should you do?
Research. Research the company deeply. I would recommend, if possible, to do a drive-by. See what the other employees are wearing, who they are, what they look like. Research the company online. Research the people you'll be interviewing with. Check out their LinkedIn profiles. Connect with them on LinkedIn. If If it's a high-profile job, you may not want to call other employees at that company. But you could do that though, just to do a little inside research. Tell me about what it's like to work. I have an interview coming up. I'm really curious. You know, it's a possibility that you could do that if it's the right position and the right time. Identify some questions that you should ask the interviewer while you're there. You're always offered an opportunity to ask questions.
I think that's something that people really struggle with, that the interviewer suddenly turns to the candidate and says, you know, how about you ask me some questions? And a lot of candidates really freeze. What's some recommendations on questions you should ask?
I like to think that you would ask questions as if you were going to get the job.
Okay.
Questions about training are always great. Oh. Tell me about the kind of training I'll receive on the job. If I were to be the successful candidate, I'd be working with Bob and Cindy. What's their preferred style of work? Something like that, just to dig in a little bit deeper, show you're motivated and already thinking about how you would approach the job if you were doing it. Yeah, it's interesting.
So you do the research for the job and research for your interview itself in terms of who you're going to be meeting with, where you're going to have to go the day of the interview, be prepared. We've talked about showing up and how to dress. What about when the interview actually starts?
Well, you have to follow the flow of the interviewee. You can't run the show. If it is an inexperienced interviewer and they're obviously fumbling, you might be able to step up and say, how about if I gave you a run-through of my qualifications and how I think I might be a fit for the role?
Okay.
But that would only be if they were really struggling. Most times you're just going to have to follow their lead. Make sure you deliver your messages that you've prepared in advance so that you make sure you get your key things out that you need to say in the interview. And then at the end, thank them for their time. And make sure you send a thank you note, and it could be by email or it could be the real card. You choose what suits you best, but if you want to stand out, a thank you card is old but true.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about sort of the sticky questions about salary? Should a candidate ask about the salary?
Very, very rarely would a candidate ever be advised to ask about salary first. Usually it comes up in a second interview and the employer will outline the salary range and perhaps ask you how you might feel about that. And at that point you could demonstrate how your qualifications are meeting and exceeding their needs and position yourself to be placed at that top range of the scale. It usually comes down to a discussion that's something like, tell me what you really need. And then it can get very awkward because you don't want to be in the position of getting only what you need. You want to get what you're worth. So
right.
You have to really balance that.
Okay. If you have a question for Patricia, give us a call at 613-728-1001. Patricia, you mentioned a second interview. What's the difference between a first interview and a second interview? What kind of questions can you expect?
I think the second interview is generally even more personality based. You're generally meeting people higher up in the company because you've gone through some kind of lower echelon screening type of process and they think you're good enough for the president to finally meet.
Right.
So he wants to know, or she wants to know, will I be able to work with this person? Are they genuine? Do they actually have the skills? Sometimes those settings can even be in like a casual restaurant type of setting. You know, they want to get to know who you really are and make sure that you're going to fit with their team